All right. Hi there. My name is MJ Shahhoseini. I'm from Iran. Now I'm based in Sweden. I'm a PhD student, and I am. Let me share my screen first. So I need to make sure that you all see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So I'm a PhD student, and I'm in the spectrum. And today I'm not going to talk about the science that we do here at Chalmers and the outreach and communication activities that we have at Onsala Space Observatory. These are the places that I work daily. But today I want to explore a simple but very important question, and it's about mainly diversity in academia and specifically in astronomy, the community that we have. So the important question is that, is our astronomy ecosystem designed for a full spectrum of minds that already exists? Is it diverse? Well, astronomy has always depended on diversity of perspective. Different telescopes reveal different wavelengths, different instruments reveal different structures. However, we think about diversity, we often focus on demographics and representation, but less attention is given to another dimension, which is differences how people think, how people process information and communicate. So we know that astronomy is a fascinating subject, but it often relies on the same old ideas about how we communicate and how we organize stuff or how we get involved with things, which this may not provide equal opportunities for everyone. So we should ask, are we really supporting all the different kinds of thinking in the astronomy community? Are we making sure everyone has an equal chance to succeed? But before we dive into that, I think we should ask, what is diversity? Why diversity, equity, and inclusion is important? Then we should ask, what is diversity in itself? The answer that why they are important is simple, I would say, because it's smart and the right thing to do. Because diversity can bring an environment that an organization and individuals can flourish. Companies with more diverse leadership teams report higher innovation revenue. So we know that diversity is important, but what exactly is diversity? What do we mean by it? It can be understood in three connected ways, in a way that they complete the whole picture. They are interconnected. Inherent and demographic diversities, and they are all about the traits and characteristics someone is born with, such as age, race, nationality, gender.
Sorry, MJ, to interrupt. Your slide is not full. It's a bit small on the screen, so can you perhaps make it full screen? Or
are you? So let me make sure that you're looking at the right place. All right. I will share again. So are you looking at my screen in the size that is proper to you?
Not yet. Maybe you can start presenting. Maybe it will become full. Okay.
Is it better now?
So there's like a bunch of black bar at the side. Let me take it to fill on my side.
Well, to me, it shows that, okay. Give me a moment.
Okay.
That is the best that
Maybe
it
this will help.
be. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess now
Okay, that's better.
I guess
Much better now.
All right. So I'll continue. So the second kind of diversity is acquired diversity, which are the traits and characteristics people develop through their life experiences, such as education, skills, professions. And the third one, which is the most important one that I'm going to talk about, we are heavily going to talk about around this kind of diversity, which is cognitive diversity. It talks about the differences in how people think, how they process information and solve problems, such as personality, values, learning. These kind of things, they all belong to cognitive diversity. And neurodiversity, which I'm going to address as NDs from here. That is a part of cognitive diversity. It's not something separate from it. But cognitive diversity is mostly acknowledged in the context of learners. I'm trying to destigmatize this. For example, when we see more relevance with ADHD discussions in the context of education. In astronomy, we may see the same pattern. Sometimes even in the conferences categorizations, we can see that IAU's astronomy ecosystem includes learners as one group, and ND individuals are examples of that topic. They are frequently discussed in educational settings. Because of this, ND is usually framed through learners. But we should think of cognitive diversity as a permanent part of our astronomy ecosystem, not just something that we talk about in the context of learning. Here we can see how cognitive diversity flows across all astronomy roles, from amateur clubs to academia. The challenges faced by ND individuals shift as they move along this continuum, from informal creativity of amateur clubs to a structured environment of academia. So I think I can talk about cognitive diversity in the matter of comparing two main parts of this ecosystem: amateur astronomy communities and academia. Amateur clubs offer flexible participation, allowing people to engage through curiosity, shared interests, and less formal structures. Participation is self-directed and adaptable, but academic environments operate differently. Universities and research institutes depend on deadlines, performance metrics, structured communications and grant systems, supervision relationships, and professional expectations. Neither of these environments are inherently better or worse. That's a very important point. They place different cognitive and social demands on participants. For many individuals, amateur environments may naturally align with interest and exploration, but transition into structured academic systems can create frictions. This does not mean ND individuals cannot thrive in academia. Many do. The question is whether our current system unintentionally create barriers through communication styles and institutional norms in general, and they unintentionally make these friction points. So here I'm trying to address some of these friction points. We need a better understanding of this, of these critical moments between each step. When someone starts connecting with amateur activity, then they want to go through to experience other parts and other roles in the astronomy community. So we need to comprehend the mechanisms that generate these frictions. Some of them are listed here. We have many more, but some of them are here. I give an example. Unstructured lab courses, for example. Group projects without defined roles, meetings without agendas or predictable turn takings. They can create anxiety and increase cognitive load for an ND. This actually goes beyond ND-NT conversation. Even a neurotypical person can feel disengaged through these kind of friction mechanisms. Or uncontrolled sensory environments. For example, if we have a star party, which may include a loud conversation, flashing screens, bright pointers, crowded spaces, rapidly changing activities. While many find this exciting, some ND individuals, especially autistic, ADHD, or in general sensory sensitive people, may find it cognitively overwhelming, which means that They may not come back to that event again, which means that we are losing people. Addressing these challenges with inclusive changes in the ecosystem can improve participation for everyone. But there is an important point here. So I will come back to this later. We have discussed right to this point the diversity, participation pathways, and potential friction points. Now, what can we do about it? Diversity refers to presence, while inclusion ensures genuine participation and thriving. I would be happy if you tell me if I have less than 2 minutes. Inclusion goes in not simple adding into groups. Smart inclusion focuses on designing flexible environments for successful engagement, not creating separate systems or treating NDs as a problem to fix. That is the important point that I was talking about, and I said I will come back to it. We should not look at it as a problem to fix. So we can apply inclusive redesigns to these friction mechanisms that we discussed earlier. These are some of the samples of very small little changes in these friction mechanisms that we already have, but I do not have time to go through all of them. But the main point is that these should not be viewed as an accommodation for a minority. These are ecosystem optimizations that benefit everyone, not just NDs. The goal is not to create separate systems. It's to build continuity across astronomy, from outreach and amateur communities to universities and research institutions. And we should not think of this as starting from the 0 point. It is really important that we do not need to invent an entirely new system. For example, we have the Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, which emphasizes multiple modes of engagement, flexible communication, and accessible participation for everyone. Similarly, the IAU Inclusive Outreach Guidelines, they already provide principles designed to improve engagement and accessibility. And this is specifically for astronomy community, so we can use them. Then we have to implement these structures and frameworks into different parts of the community. So the key is continuity, to keep doing this in every part of the community. Then instead of viewing outreach, education, and academia as a separate environment, consider them as interconnected parts of an ecosystem. When inclusive practices link across this ecosystem, they create a feedback loop. So with implementing these frameworks, then we will have a humane astronomy ecosystem where participation, continuity, well-being, and feeling of belonging these kind of things will become a norm, which there is a way to get there, I think. So this perspective also aligns with the broader efforts such as the IAU Astronomy for Mental Health initiative, because astronomy is not only about discovery, it is about perspective, connecting people, and human experience. It is important to remind ourselves that why this ultimately matters at the human level. Mental health matters, humane astronomy matters. So up to now, we focus on participation and inclusion as a structural challenge, but there is also a human dimension to it, which I will try to be faster here. One part is that it is connected to our well-being. Astronomy can.
2 minutes left.
Thank you very much. So the IAU Astronomy for Mental Health initiative recognizes this relationship between astronomy and psychological well-being. So in that matter, this is a very positive point in maintaining this across the ecosystem. But there's also another very important part of it, which is psychological safety. It is really important to ask this question: who gets access to these experiences? If our environments, the answer is, I would say everyone should have access. If our environments are overwhelming, ambiguous, or psychologically unsafe, then every individual, especially ND individuals, neurodivergent individuals, may disengage before they can benefit from it. So this is where we discuss these friction points and we address them. We need to foster a psychologically safe environment through smart inclusion, not just bringing people together. A smart inclusion which is more about equity, not equality. Psychologically safety can be defined as below: a shared perception among the team members that the group is safe for interpersonal risk-taking, such as speaking openly or admitting mistakes without fear of embarrassment or judgment, rejection, punishment, or being treated differently because of personal characteristics. That is something that is really important to me. That is a definition of psychological safe space. We can do that in our own environments. Every one of us, we have a place that we have a role there. We can imply, we can try to imply this there, that people can talk and admit their mistakes, and we do not react so hard to them. The other point is that valuing cognitive diversity is a positive thing, because cognitive diversity means variations in how people process information. So it means that different kind of thinking can, this is where astronomy can benefit. This is where the system can flourish, because different kind of thinking can make us to be able to solve problems in different ways, in better ways. So astronomy has always advanced through multiple perspectives: observations on theory, technical precision and creativity, pattern recognitions, and deep specialization. Here, the individuals may approach problems differently, nice, like in a very nice, different way, that they can notice overlooked details or challenge assumptions that others take for granted. So that is one of the other points. So this is my last slide. I want to say that throughout this talk, I argued about the cognitive diversity, that it should not be viewed as a temporary educational issue or a side note to inclusion. It exists throughout astronomy, from outreach and amateur communities to research institutions and observatories. We identified places where participation can break down. We explored simple redesign and saw that we do not need to start from zero. There are frameworks that we can use. We talked about smart inclusion and what it means. And we must first comprehend diversity, I think. Smart inclusion and its significance, followed by the process of implementing it within the ecosystem. That's the answer. Astronomy already teaches us that understanding the universe requires many perspectives. Perhaps understanding one another requires the same thing. So thank you very much for your time, and let me know if you have any questions. Hello, I'm here. I do not see anyone else on this stage. Yes.
Do we have any questions from the audience? My colleague maybe will tell me if we have some online questions.
Mm-hmm.
We currently don't have any online questions, so we can go on to the next speaker.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, so next speaker, please. Is Tiin here from Indonesia?
English. This is the Earth. Earth is the only known planet that supports life. About 71% of its surface is covered by water. Earth's This is Jupiter. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. It is a gas giant mainly composed of hydrogen and helium.
I see Tin online, but I couldn't find her on the list. Maybe Tin, if you can hear me, can you click on the join stage button on the top? Can you hear
If
me,
she's
Tin?
not joining now, we can move to the next person, and then she can join us after we have the one presentation.
Okay, I think she's on. All right.
She's here. Okay.
That's, yes. Tin, you can unmute and continue.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are from the Department of Atmospheric and Planetary Science, Faculty of Science, Institute Technology of Sumatera, Indonesia. Today, we are pleased to present our project entitled Sonar Solaris, translating the solar system into sound and touch. My name is Tiin, Zakiyah.
Tiin, your voice is very low. Can you increase your volume a bit? We can't hear you well.
And also, if you're
Oh.
using perhaps a microphone or change up your audio input device. Can you hear me, Tin?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Can I continue?
Yes, please continue.
My name is Tiin Karimah. You may call me Al, and I'm honored to work together with Dr. Roberto Mustaba on this project. Astronomy is widely known as one of the most visually dependent scientific disciplines. Most astronomy learning methods rely heavily on visual materials such as images, simulations, diagrams, videos, and direct observation. While
Tin,
these methods,
your audio is cutting up again, and I think it's being a bit choppy again.
okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but as you
Yeah.
speak along, it gets a bit choppy, and we can't hear you clearly.
Okay. Okay. I'll continue.
Perhaps we can go to the next speaker, and if we can resolve your audio issue, you can join us a bit later. Is that okay?
Maybe I continue it first.
Okay, let's
Okay.
give it one more try. Okay.
Okay. Well, astronomy is widely known as one of the most visually dependent scientific disciplines. Most astronomy learning methods rely heavily on visual materials such as image simulations, diagrams, videos, and direct observation. While these methods are effective for many learners, they can become significant barriers for students with visual impairments and learners with special educational needs and disabilities or SEND students. This educational challenge became the main motivation behind our project. To address these challenges, we developed Sonar Solaris, an audio-tactile educational tool designed specifically for inclusive astronomy learning. The system translates information about the solar system into two main sensory experiences, touch and sound. Learners can physically explore the planetary models using their hands while simultaneously receiving audio narration related to each planet.
Sorry, Tiin, your audio is cutting up again. I think it's very, very difficult to hear. Perhaps we will have you a bit later. We should move on to the next speaker. Sorry. You'll join us in a bit later though, if we can fix the audio
Okay.
issue. Okay? Okay, I think the next speaker is Ojima. Ojima, you can begin.
Oh, okay. Before I start, I just want to make sure my slide moves properly. Can you move to the next slide, please? Did you get that? Okay, it's not moving. It's not
Now
moving
it's
properly.
moving. Yes, you can continue.
No, it's not. It's not moving properly. Can you go to the next slide again? I'm really sorry.
If you hover on the screen, can you see your next slide? On your slide.
The other slides have transition in them, and it might affect it.
Okay.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Is it the next? You can tell me. Okay. Here.
No, it's not. Can you go back to the first slide? The Can you go back to the first slide, please? My issue with the presenting it from Ring Central is it doesn't move the slide accordingly. So I don't know. I'm just scared it might scatter everything I arranged. But as long as it
Okay.
moves, let's carry on. I asked something in the chat box if I could
Okay.
share my screen, and I did not get any response from anybody.
Maybe Naomi can share her screen. Can you? Do you see any share screen button on the bottom? If you can, you
Yes.
can click on it, and you can continue from there.
Okay.
Have you
Can you
clicked
see
on
my?
it? All right. I can see your screen. You can continue.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you're joining from. This presentation is about the inclusive astronomy workshops in Nigeria, which focuses on making astronomy more accessible to people with disabilities. Throughout this presentation, I will be sharing the things we did, the activities that were carried out, the impact the workshop had, and the lessons we learned. My name is Ojima Ocheni, and I'm presenting on behalf of my team. This initiative was made possible by the collaboration with organizations like the IAU Office of Astronomy for Development, the IAU Office for Astronomy Outreach, and that's the Center for Basic Space Science and Astronomy. Astronomy is usually taught in a very visual way, which makes it difficult for some learners to fully participate. So, throughout this workshop, we made sure to teach astronomy using touch, sound, and hands on activities. The goal of the workshop was not only to teach astronomy, but to make it engaging and understanding for learners with different learning needs and abilities. should be inclusive, which was carried out in 2024, yeah, at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in Enugu State. And later in 2025, the Astronomy for Blind and Visually Impaired Children at the Special Education Center at Ojima in Enugu State, and also online. Across these locations, we reached over 590 participants, including undergraduate, postgraduate, primary, and secondary school students, and also special needs educators. One important aspect of the workshop was the diversity of the participants. It gave the opportunity for learning opportunities between educators and people with different educational backgrounds and needs. One of the major strengths of the workshop was the use of hands-on and multisensory activities. Participants explored tactile solar models, they created planet bead models, and they also built and launched rockets. We used touch-based galaxy and telescope materials along with audio and braille learning tools. We also included sign language supported sessions and interactive STEM discussion to make sure participants could actively take part in the learning process. These images that are going to be shown, they highlight some of the hands-on activities and inclusive teaching methods that were used during the workshop. Participants were able to interact directly with astronomy materials through touch and guided activities instead of only learning through the normal visual explanation. The workshop also encouraged teamwork discussion and active participation among learners with different educational backgrounds and accessibility needs. Activities like rocket building and model construction helped make STEM learning more practical, exciting, and engaging for participants. We also use different inclusive learning approaches, such as sign language support, tactile materials, and audio learning tools. These activities helped create an environment where participants could learn, explore, ask questions, and feel included. The data shows that there was an increase in interest in STEM and also knowledge improvement in space science and astronomy. We used questionnaires and we conducted a quiz after each workshop to quantify the increase in the knowledge improvement and interest in STEM. But beyond the numbers, the workshop showed strong participation and positive engagement across the different groups. The hands-on activities also helped participants understand astronomy concepts more easily by learning more interactive and practically. Most importantly, the workshop created an inclusive environment where learners with disabilities could actively participate and feel confident while learning science. Just like every other outreach activity or program, we experienced some challenges, and I'll be sharing some of the solutions. We experienced weather disruption, and it affected some outdoor observations and activities. So instead, we used accessible digital tools and simulations as alternative to outdoor observations. There was limited availability of inclusive learning materials and assistive technologies. So materials that we had and assistive tools were shared through organized group rotations. Initially, at the beginning, there was communication barrier where a particular group couldn't really understand what was on, but we resolved this through the involvement of trained interpreters and inclusive education specialists. In conclusion, this work showed that astronomy can be and should be accessible to everyone, regardless of disability or background. The experience highlights the importance of inclusive science education in Nigeria and the need to create learning spaces where everyone can participate. Future outreach programs should prioritize the acquisition of more assistive and adaptive learning tools, including advanced tactile kits and audio interactive technologies. And also, the lesson gained from the workshop will guide the improvement of similar initiatives, ensuring that astronomy remains accessible to everyone. The link to the resources is located below this slide, but I will post it in the chat in case anyone needs it. I would like to take the time to acknowledge our beautiful team. I'm starting from my right, Mr. Peter Okagu, the OAO NOC for Nigeria, then Mr. Timothy Ebuem, Mrs. Vivian, Mani Kali, and Mr. Paul Arome. Please feel free to reach out to either me or Peter if you would like to collaborate, or if you would like to know anything about the inclusive astronomy workshops or programs we do in Nigeria. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the talk. Do we have any questions from the audience?
I think we have one online.
Okay.
It's from Leonardo. Thank you. Could you put the link for the activities in the chat, please? I think Ojima will do that right away, I'm assuming.
Okay, I will do that.
All right.
So
If you can hear me from the stage? Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I mean, now it's afternoon for you, right? Can I start?
Yes, Anna, you can begin.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, hello, everyone. I'm Ana Vicente. I gave a presentation earlier, and now I'm gonna share another project that also actually was partial result of my master thesis. And I'm gonna talk about some of the resources and the strategies of the Planetarium of the Fiocruz Museum of Life here in Brazil, and towards the activities of indigenous astronomy. This research and the activities stem from the context where some Brazilian planetariums and science museums, they have putting a lot of effort in bringing more activities related to cultural astronomy, particularly indigenous knowledge, indigenous astronomy, or Brazilian indigenous astronomy. And that's very important since indigenous history, indigenous culture, indigenous knowledge is part of our culture as well as Brazilians, so it's part of our heritage. So when we promote accessibility in those activities, we are also amplifying the contact and the knowledge with this heritage, with this knowledge. And not only that, but also amplifying the access to decolonial discussions. They are also very big now in Brazil, this more decolonial way of thinking. So the goal of this particular project was to understand the accessibility, resources, and strategies that the planetarium, that is actually traveling planetarium. They travel to different cities. I will explain more later. But to understand which resources and strategies they were using in those particular activities, also identify challenges and strength in these strategies and resources. As I said, is part of my master thesis, and we collected data from 2024 to 2025 and involved documental analysis of all this history of the portable planetarium, and also interviews with both coordinators of the project, but also with the staff with disability of the planetarium and the museum. As I said, this research was carried on in the Museum of Life Fiocruz. This museum is the physical museum, the on-site museum. But they also have the portable, the traveling project, which the planetarium is part. This traveling activity is called Science Mobile, and is a 13-meter truck that travels to different cities in the southeast part of Brazil, bringing activities of science and astronomy to cities that has no or few cultural spaces, STEM spaces, right? So the planetarium goes together and carry the activities for the population for free. The planetarium and the Science Mobile started in 2006, but the planetarium had a big change in 2016 when they became a digital planetarium. They start working with Stellarium. But then in 2020, with the COVID lockdown, the planetarium and the truck could not travel anymore. So the educators started building e-book collections about different topics. And one of them was cultural astronomy, including Tupi-Guarani astronomy. That is one of the indigenous branches that we have here. Here I have some of the materials that they did along with the ebook and some of the constellations they work with. So we have those three here. After the COVID lockdown, and once they went back to the normal activities and the traveling, they incorporated in 2023 one activity that was completely focused on Tupi-Guarani astronomy. That is the getting to know the Tupi-Guarani sky. It was carried on with the Stellarium, and they work with this for constellations: the Old Man, the Deer, the White Emu, and the North Tapir. Okay, what about the accessibility of this activity? When I started doing my research, I found out that the accessibility activities of the planetarium itself only started in 2021, although it's the planetarium itself only started in 2006. The accessibility activities only started in 2021 with those e-books and with the cultural astronomy books, what I think is very interesting. But until 2025, those activities, the accessibility was very punctual and not so much effective. For instance, they had a consultant that was a blind professional for the books, but I could not find her name in the credits. I only found out because she told me that she worked there. But then everything changed in 2025 when the truck hired an accessibility consultant that is also a person with disability. And from that one, they were able to develop more continuous and systematic accessibility strategies. For instance, evaluation, training with staff, and following up the accessibility resources development. What are the resources that they have currently for the planetarium? They hired sign language interpreters for the sessions. they have plush toy models of the constellations. You can see in the picture the plush toys. They also have been developing 3D printing tactile models of the constellations with the consultancy also of blind people. And lastly, but not least important, in March 2025, they did the first big activity that was focused on a target group that were people with disabilities. It was in the National Institute for Deaf Education here in Brazil. And it was, as I said, completely focused on the deaf community. So for this activity, they also hired deaf educators to help in carrying the activities and also improve the activities to be accessible the best possible for the deaf visitors. Is the second picture, is the activity of astronomy, and they had the deaf educator doing the sign language version while a hearing educator, that's what we call when it's not deaf, was doing the activity itself. What are the strengths I identify in this process? First of all, the interpreter training. The interpreters, they are usually hired by the city that the truck is visiting. So the Science Mobile itself and the Planetarium does not have an interpreter. The city has to hire it. And what the truck developed was a protocol for training those interpreters, because they don't know astronomy, but they don't need to know, but they need to know the signs, the terms important, so they can translate. So this protocol allows them to get to know better these terms, these signs beforehand. So throughout the activity, it's successful. The staff as well has been really motivated to develop those inclusive practice and implementing it. Also, the Science Mobile, due to this institutional links that it has with the museum, they have been enjoying funding and budget. For instance, they have access to a federal fundraising law that helps to fund the activities. And also they receive a special grant just for indigenous activities that made them able to purchase the plushie toys and also hire sign language interpreters for specific activities, especially in April, that is the Indigenous Month here in Brazil. But they also face some challenges. For instance, as I said, they are traveling planetarium. So the physical accessibility itself, it depends on where they're going to build the planetarium. And it depends where the event organizers are going to choose for them to build the planetarium. So it's very unstable. Also, the sign language interpreters, they have to be hired for the event organizers, and the event organizers cannot hire them if they don't think it's necessary. And that opens like this gap that it might not have interpreters. Also, another challenge regarding the interpreters is the lack of terms for indigenous astronomy in sign language. So they have to develop new terms, new signs for that. Or also they can have the sign, but the sign does not represent what they want to say. For instance, if they're talking about a myth in indigenous culture, the sign in sign language is lie. So it does not represent what the educators want to say, they want to discuss. So that's a big challenge. Also, throughout my research, we identify some problems with welcoming and reception of people with disabilities by the planetarium staff and managers, with both with the visitors, but also the deaf educators that work in the activities, for instance, so with the staff with disabilities. So that opens a problem that highlights a problem of lack of training in accessibility inclusion. So it's always important to keep training, to promote training for the staff. And also, although I said they have funding, they still lack with consistent funding. So sometimes they have funding, sometimes they do not. So it's hard to plan beforehand activities and if they're gonna be able to continue the activity. So sometimes they have to do step by step accessibility. One part has accessibility, but the other doesn't have. So although this accessibility and resource accessibility strategies and resources is still limited, is showing that it's gonna progress, and probably in some years they're gonna have developed a lot more continued and systematic practice. And what I noticed throughout my research is that is actually very innovative efforts, both in the area of inclusive science communication, but also inclusive astronomy communication, bringing this in a decolonial perspective. We don't see that very often. This gathering of these two topics, that is inclusion and decolonial debates. And above all, the importance of including people with disabilities as co-creators and protagonists, that they have been always collaborating, and not only collaborating, but also having agency and protagonism in all of the development of these activities and evaluation. So that is always key for promoting a more inclusive astronomy. As always, thank you so much for being here, and feel free to questions.
Any questions from the stage side?
Yes, we have a question, just fixing the mic.
Okay.
Hello, Anna. Thank you so much for your very nice work. And actually, to be honest, I'm very impressed about your activities and investigation. The question from my side is maybe better talk about just a little about my question, and then I will ask my question. We know there is some impact on this community. For example, for example, the emotional impact is so important for this community, the people with disabilities. So did you have any investigation about these compacts? For example, sometimes we'll be angry, sometimes we'll be happy, excited, something like this. So it's very important to know about it. I'm very impressed, and I'm very excited to know about this, if you had investigation about these things.
Thank you so much for your question. I actually really enjoyed this question because also as part of my thesis, this is a very short part of my master thesis. But yes, I investigated the emotional side of the staff with disabilities working in these activities. And it was something I cannot even put in words, but basically, although the museum, because I investigate both the museum and the science mobile and the truck, the museum itself is more strong with accessibility because it has been developing accessibility for longer than the truck, but in both departments, we saw that the staff with disabilities, they were facing a lot of problems especially regarding communication and the interaction among staff without disabilities and staff with disabilities. So it's been for them very overwhelming. Let's put in those words. For instance, in this activity with the planetarium, that I interviewed the person that the deaf participant that was carrying on the activity, and this person described it to me a lot of the challenge. For instance, the coordinators, they didn't send the material beforehand, and she doesn't know Portuguese. She doesn't master Portuguese, so she had a lot of struggles. She got anxious in the day. She cried because she was like nervous. She didn't know astronomy. She's not an astronomer. The person that was working with her, there is the hearing educator, was talking fast. She could not follow with the sign language, and she was asking, please, can you slow down? And the person didn't. So she got nervous, and it was a very hard moment for her. So yes, it's been the accessibility process, the inclusion process presents a lot of distension moments, and it's hard for the staff. So it's key that when we're promoting accessibility, especially inside the institution, that we check up how the staff is. It's not only putting them there and that's it. We have to keep continuously checking how is the experience of this person going. That was one of the discussions that we did. Probably I'm gonna publish a paper about this. It's in review. So if you want, follow me on ResearchGate. Eventually it's gonna show up there, I hope. And it's in English, so it's all good. Thank you so much.
Yes, good. Is there any opportunity for ask any question or not? Okay, it's very important to me. You know, there is a very nice connection between astronomy and medicine. So because of that, you know, we are working on another topic of this connection. Because of that, I have some questions from your side. You know, we are trying to know about some impact of the sun on the body, and we have a good team. We have a medicine doctor in our team as well, and we are trying to know about these impacts on the body and about heart attack, and also about stroke. So you are working in the another topic, something like this. So it's very nice to me to know about the results that you will get. So please publish your paper when you did it, and please do some investigation about this impact on the body of people with disabilities. Thank you so much for this, and I wait for you.
There's one more question from online, from Sophia. Very interesting, Anna. How are they approaching developing new sign for astronomy terms? Is there an organization that is developing these, or how is it done?
Very good question. Thank you so much. So what we've been doing is adaptation. So in this situation, for instance, with the deaf with the deaf educator in the event for in the National Institute for Deaf Education, what they did was beforehand, they would read the script and see what there was that didn't exist, and they would adapt. Oh, we could use this sign, or also we do a lot in sign language is what we call, I would think in English would be classifiers. It's not necessarily there is not a proper sign, but we would do something similar. So we call this classifier. It's not a proper term, but we would do something to represent that. I know it's weird what I'm saying, but it makes sense in sign language. So they would do that. But also there are researchers and universities groups that has been trying to build glossaries and trying to develop new signs for different topics. and astronomy is one of them. Coincidentally or not, the accessibility consultant that got in the Science Mobile, her master thesis was gathering and developing science for astronomy in sign language, because she's not deaf, but she has training in interpretation and sign language. She studied that, so that was her master thesis. She was developing these resources, and now it's disseminating to get more and more to the deaf community. And that's how deaf how sign language goes. And the biggest problem is unifying, because sometimes a term is used in one region, but in another region is another term. That's why this protocol with interpreters is so important, to align the signs that is gonna be used, and that the interpreters know the sign. Because sometimes it's not even about this astronomy terms. Sometimes they don't know a specific term that is present. For instance, they had an activity that the interpreter didn't know the sign for emu. I think that's in English. And there was, but he didn't know. So I hope I answer your question. And I don't want to steal more time. I got excited. I love this research. Sorry.
Thank you, An. There's any online questions? So then we move to the next speaker.
Can you hear me? You can, yes. You can share your screen if you want.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Tap on, yeah, I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, you can bring it to full screen and you can begin.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brazil, and good afternoon, Romania. I'm Monyke Fonseca, and my presentation is about the Hearing the Cosmos, a purpose to sonifying data in astronomy. What was my motivation? I wanted to connecting to words, because I am a PhD student in astronomy. I study galaxies, and I use lots of data and mathematical models that reveals the secrets of the universe. And astronomy is very visual, yeah. But also, I am a teacher. I'm a physics teacher at a university here in Bahia, in the Federal University of the Recôncavo Baiano. And here we have a degree in assistive technology and accessibility engineering. And I became very interested in connecting these two words, because here accessibility is a very stimulated. So we have the purpose emerged from a very specific context. Like, my PhD in astronomy and the university with this accessibility and inclusive degree, and where I teach. And why accessibility matters. Astronomy is often communicated through image spectra and sometimes confusing plots. But these formats are very powerful, but they are not equally accessible to everyone. And the central question was, how can astronomical data become perceptible beyond sight? And this project explore the sound as an additional pathway for understanding the data for people with some disabilities and neurodivergencies. And what is the data sonification is a way of converting numerical information from our data sets into structured sounds. And what we want to do, what we want when we sonify the data, the goal is to preserve the relationships in the data while making them audible. And this technique transforms the patterns, the trends, the variations in the data into experience that can be heard and understood. But there are some sonification purpose existing all of the world, but here we try to use this technique as a pedagogical and accessibility driven tool. The idea was make some activity of extension. How can we apply this technique? Imagine a light curve of a galaxy brightness profile transformed into sound. And as the data changes, the sound would change in intensity, pitch, and rhythm. So imagine watching a star brightness fluctuate. Now imagine hearing the same variations. And as the falling tones change volumes and the rhythm pulses. To make a proof of concept, we used the Tabby star. This data was from the Kepler mission, photometric data. And this star is known for being unpredictable in the brightness. So its light curve was transformed into a sound sequence, and the sound allows listeners to perceive the star's variability through hearing. It's very, very, how can I say this in English? Varies a lot. And how we do this? We relate some parameters in the data into features in the sound. For example, we use the brightness or flux into volume, the change or gradient in the pitch, and the time sequence in the rhythm, and perceive this. And through this, we can perceive variation in structure. Some tools we use to make this possible, and the reproducibility was we use the Python code. We use some libraries like NumPy and Pandas, Matplotlib and SciPy, the AstroPy, to generate the audio, the plots, and some docs. What is different in this purpose? There are already some sonification initiatives, but this we want to make a pedagogical use of this sound, not just an art or just to hear. Here we use some 4 steps to make this pedagogical use. The listening to the data through a guided activity. First, we propose presenting the mapping between the data and the sound. Then the participants would listen actively, trying to identify the moments of stability and variation. And then we could correspond the sound to the graph and discuss how the auditory pattern relates to the data. And the sequence turns the sonification to an interpretivity activity, not only in audio demonstration. The cognitive relevance of this practice is why the sound can support learning, because the sound offers an alternative pathway to perceive quantitative variation, and it may support pattern recognition, attention engagement, and it can benefit blind and low vision learners by translating the visual data into auditory information. And in my context, in the university, we have many students, neurodivergent students in our community. So for some neurodiverse learners, the structured sound may offer another way to access the scientific content. how I said before, now, some sonification projects often use focus on outreach or immersive experience, and here we propose a pedagogic use of this data, focusing on the meaningful data to sound mapping. And our final considerations is the sonification should be in a tool used to expand how astronomy can be perceived and communicated. And this should be part of astronomy outreach from the beginning, because listening can become a pathway to understanding the cosmos to another people who can't understand astronomy for the regular ways. So thank you.
Thank you. Oop, what happened? Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, Mr. Said, I think you have to come here because the mics are not working.
So, thank you for your excellent talk. I have a question regarding, do you have any scientific actually a committee that expert from the field like the neuroscience, like the the clinical linguistics, or experts in the social science and the neuroscience to help you, because the hearing problem, it is really connected to the cognitive science. It means that you have to know about people's mind, how you can actually design your material and get the idea from social science scientists. This is something that a couple of the friends that working on the hearing problems, generally invite the medicine community to help them.
Could you write it down, please?
Cannot hear you. I have to repeat the question.
I think you're audible better now. Can you hear him?
I can hear you from the room. Yes, we can hear you, but I do not know about this. Just ask.
Perhaps you can repeat the question from stage.
Okay, I repeat the question. I would like to ask you, is there any expert from the neuroscience, from the linguistics, and those people from the medicine community to help you to actually develop your methodology scientifically, help the medicine community to actually develop your outreach material? Because this is something that we have to ask from, those medicine community to help you. This is from another discipline. Because of the the hearing problem and those people who are blind, we have to ask the medicine how we can actually research about or think about what is their problem exactly.
I don't have a reference to this. I don't know how to answer this question, but this idea wasn't in practice yet. It's an idea, a purpose, but we don't have any reference in the medical area to. I don't know. I'm struggling to express myself. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. If you can actually leave your email, I can actually ask you directly, and you can write me, because I don't know we have time to continue, or if you can speak very well at the moment, it is fine for me communicate by the email.
Yes, you could.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Said. So, asking my colleague Kirubel, any questions from the online audience?
There is one question from Aurelio. If the purpose is for teaching tool, how important is how good the result sounds? Additionally, I want to ask the reason for your mapping of pitch, loudness, etc.
You wanted to hear some sound? What?
Should I repeat the question? Okay. It is from Aurelia. If
Yeah.
the purpose is for a teaching tool, how important is how good the result sounds, the result? Additionally, I wanted to ask you the reason for your mapping of pitch, loudness, etc.
Yes, we have some. I'm sorry, I'm reading. Well, how good is the result? We can. It needs to be efficient to perceive the variations in the pictures of the object as astronomical object. For example, can I reproduce here the Tabista sound?
I'm not sure if we can hear it from your device, but you can give it a try. But in the interest of time, maybe not. Just explain, and since we have one more presenter to go through.
Okay. Uh, the sound must be efficient to perceive this variation in the data, and the reason of for mapping of for your mapping of the reason is to make this possible to the audience to understand the data in another way beyond the visual manner.
Okay, so thank you for the speech, for the talk. We had Tin earlier. Her mic was not working, so we can try one more time. So the floor is yours.
Can you hear us, Tin?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, now let's give it a try.
Okay, I'll continue it from the problem. Okay.
Bring yourself a bit closer to the mic so that it will be a bit louder, but it's clearer so far.
Is it clear? Wait.
Yes? Please
From my side, it's clear. Yes, continue.
Okay.
So you have 8 minutes and 2 minutes for questions.
Okay. So, okay. So, to address all these challenges, we developed Sonar Solaris, an audio tactile educational tool designed specifically for inclusive astronomy learning. The system translates information about the solar system into two main sensory experiences, touch and sound. Learners can physically explore the planetary models using their hands while simultaneously receiving audio narration related to each planet. This combination creates a more interactive and engaging learning process compared to traditional explanation methods alone. In addition, the system was intentionally designed to remain affordable, simple, portable, and easy to reproduce in educational environments. Okay. So now I would like to explain how the Sonar Solaris system works in more detail. Each planet in the solar system is represented by a raised three-dimensional sphere. Every planet is designed with the unique textures, so users can distinguish one planet from another through tactile exploration. For example, some planets may have rover surfaces, while others have smoother textures. Under each planetary model, we installed a push button as the primary interaction mechanism. When the button is pressed, the system activates an audio narration through the speaker. The narration provides information about the selected planet, including its physical characteristic, atmosphere size, temperature, and unique scientific facts. Currently, the narration is available in English and Bahasa Indonesia. However, because the audio files are stored digitally, additional languages can easily be added in future development. Next, I will explain the materials and technical components used in this project. The system consists of several accessible and low-cost electronic components, including a microcontroller such as Arduino, DF player, speakers, push buttons, micro SD card, jumper wires, and other basic electronic components. The physical structure is made using MDF board as the main base. All components were selected carefully based on three considerations: affordability, local availability, and ease of assembly. This approach allows the prototype to remain practical and scalable for educational implementation. The estimated cost for producing one Sonar Solaris prototype is approximately 1.5 million Indonesian rupiah, or around $86. This relatively affordable cost demonstrates that inclusive educational technology can be developed without requiring expensive infrastructure. Because of its low production cost, Sonar Solaris also has strong potential for implementation in schools, educational outreach programs, science exhibitions, and inclusive learning environments with limited resources. Okay, this slide presents the project blueprint and the overall system arrangement. The layout was designed to support intuitive tactile exploration. The planets are arranged systematically so users can interact with them comfortably and independently. Special attention was given to spacing, tactile accessibility, and ease of navigation. The goal was to create a learning medium that feels natural and easy to explore through physical interaction. Now, I would like to
English. This is the Earth.
So users begin
Earth
to
is
touch
the only
and
known
exploring the
planet that
tactile
supports
planetary
life.
models.
About
After selecting a
71%
planet,
of its
they
surface
press the
is covered by
corresponding
water.
button located
Earth's
beneath the model. Immediately, the system provides
This
audio
is
narration
Jupiter.
containing information
Jupiter
about
is
the
the largest
selected
planet
planet.
in the solar system. It is a gas
Compared to
giant
passive
mainly
learning
composed of
methods, this
hydrogen.
multisensory approach can help improve engagement and conceptual understanding, particularly for learners with visual impairments. Through this demonstration, we hope to show that astronomy can become more accessible and enjoyable through inclusive educational design. Okay. For future development, we plan to implement Sonar Solaris directly within science educational institutions for testing and evaluation. We also aim to collect feedback from students, teachers, and inclusive practitioners. This feedback will help us improve both the technical and educational aspects of the system in future versions. We hope to add more languages, improve audio interactivity, expand the educational content beyond the solar system, and further optimize tactile learning features. Sonar Solaris represents a small but meaningful contribution towards inclusive science education. This project demonstrates that astronomy can become more accessible when educational tools are designed with inclusivity in mind. In addition, it highlights how multisensory learning approaches can improve scientific understanding and participation among science students. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. We sincerely appreciate this opportunity to share our work at CAP2026 and we'll welcome any questions or discussions.
Thank you, Tiin. I might give the floor now to the audience for any possible questions. Maybe, Kirbel, can you check for the online if there's any questions?
No questions so far, but feel free to write them up. We have 2 minutes left, so yes, I think yeah, no, there's no question from my side. If there's none from the stage,
Then thank you to all the speakers and to my online colleagues for this session. If there's not any more questions, I think we can continue with the rest of the agenda. There's a coffee break now. So thank you all for participating, and we enjoy the rest of the CAP for today. Thank you.